We're now around halfway in the 2020 season, which means the controversial comments and opinions from every F1 fan after the Belgian Grand Prix comes out, and we are here to debate them, agree, possibly disagree, and get you guys involved in the comments. Agree or disagree is back ahead of the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. We're taking 4 of your guys' comments from Twitter and all of our social medias and discussing them, giving our opinions why or why not we agree or disagree with them. And yes, just having a debate about what you guys think about that. So obviously, firstly, thank you very much for commenting. And let's jump into the video. So Jordan, what is our first comment from our social medias, from our fans? And do we agree or disagree with it?
Well, the first one comes in from Uzer. He makes a return. He normally is on every single week. He's back. Uzer is back. Very controversial opinions does he have. He says, Albon is a mediocre driver who makes Bottas look like a legend. He should be replaced by Vettel. For all the talk that Hamilton's teammates are supposedly weak, Max gets a pass for having a weaker teammates. Also, Alonso, Rosberg and Button are not weak by any means. I mean, literally, there's about 3 different opinions in that statement alone, User. But I'm assuming it's the first one about Albon being a mediocre driver with the whole talk and everything going on. To that, I'm going to say disagree.
I'm also going to say disagree.
Right. Now, there has been a lot of talk of Alexander Albon, as we've already debated about in debate shows, and it's big news at the moment, especially in recent weeks. Albon under pressure from Red Bull. He's nowhere near the pace of Max Verstappen, and almost history is repeating itself. Now, although I'm aware Albon is not delivering the results that Red Bull is required, he's nowhere near Max. He's not as quick as Max, which you shouldn't expect him to be. Now, you look at Red Bull's results this season. They are currently sitting second in the Constructors, which is one better than they were this time last season, by the way. Now, that is more than less down to Ferrari being poor, but nevertheless, P2 is still P2. And they've got P2 in the back, regardless of what happens, because McLaren's not going to catch them, which is the next closest team. Ferrari, not a chance. Racing Point, nowhere near. And Renault, outside a chance. I mean, come on, have a day off. And Red Bull aren't going to catch Mercedes. No way in the world are they going to catch Mercedes. So they've got P2 in the bag. So for me to demote Albon I'm like, I don't get it. Give him a chance to deliver. Give him a chance to settle, maybe not settle in, but improve. Red Bull are being very vocal about him, backing Alexander Albon with that seat, just giving him support and stuff. And you can kind of tell with his attitude and his body language in interviews, he knows he's not delivering, and he isn't. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, Albon's the best driver since sliced bread. He isn't. He's not delivering, and he needs to. He needs to improve, definitely. But if you look at his results, all right, in terms of consistency at his time at Red Bull, since he joined at Belgium last year, his first race, there's only been 2 races since when he didn't score any points. Name them 2 races, you'll know them. Because he collided with the world champion, which was Brazil 2019 and Austria 2020. Apart from then, he scored points in every single race. No retirements, no crashes, no bin in the car. Fair enough, that's good, isn't it? That's consistent, and I'm very happy with that. Like he's on a really good point scoring finish. He's currently sitting 4th in the standings, which I don't think Gasly ever got to at Red Bull. He's on more points than what Gasly was at this point last season after 7 races. Red Bull are on way more points than what they were this time last season. So Red Bull they're improving. They are doing better. And you look at Albon's record at Toro Rosso. Bearing in mind he's never driven a car before, and a Formula 1 car. He put in some pretty good performances. I think Kvyat only outraced him by 1. I think it was 5-4 to Kvyat. During the time of Toro Rosso, which isn't too bad for a driver who's never been in an F1 car before. He had that amazing drive in China from the pit lane to P10. Pretty impressive, even though he did bin the car in practice. No, it was qualifying, that's why he was in the pit lane. Qualifying. So he's got these glimpses of being a good driver. And he's shown that at Toro Rosso, which was pretty impressive. He's shown that in his junior career at F2, and he's even shown that at Red Bull. But for some reason this season, it's not clicking. Has he forgotten to drive? No, of course he hasn't. That car's not for him. I've said this before and I'll say it again. That car's mainly for Verstappen. I know some people disagree with me with the last time I said it. But it's true. That's more in Albon. That's more in Vettel. For God's sake, that's more in Verstappen's corner than it is in Alexander Albon's corner. Now, I would say he's a better driver than what people give him credit for. Definitely, he needs to improve. Definitely, and that's going to be make or break for Alex, and that's what's going to decide whether he's going to be there in the future or not. Because if he can't improve results for next season, which he should still be there, by the way, he needs to have this season and next season. All right, then we can kind of judge him and see where he's going to be at. All right, so for me, I'm going to disagree with that. Albon is a mediocre driver, makes Bottas look like a legend. Even Bottas isn't doing that well at the moment. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's my opinion about Alexander Albon. Lyle, what's yours? You also said disagree as well. You know, Albon, you like him as well. You're a Red Bull fan, you know, as we've stated before. So yeah, what's your reasons why you disagree?
Well, firstly, we're going to be talking about the opposite end of the spectrum to Albon, Pierre Gasly, his indirect rival. A few statements at the end, and of course the title of this episode. Now, of course, Albon, there's a lot of controversy around him. You know, should he have got the seat, and what's going on about him? I think he's a good driver. He's not mediocre. So I just want to jump to the second part here that makes Bottas look like a legend. Again, Valtteri Bottas is a strong driver, but those two drivers are kind of in the same bracket of you can't compare them to the teammates. So again, with Lance Stroll, for example, and Sergio Perez. Great chances for those two drivers, because wherever Sergio is, Lance is, and vice versa. You know, they're always together in the field, whether they be 8th and 9th, 7th and 8th, wherever, 3rd and 4th as they were in Hungary. Strong results together, and they both show that they are, strong teammates together. But that's the problem, though. You can't compare Hamilton to Bottas, or Bottas to Hamilton even, and you can't compare Albon to Verstappen. And those two alone are getting shown up by the teammates to why they're number 2 drivers. Again, I don't think Bottas is, not a legend, and I don't think he is a legend. I think that he is doing a good job. And again, I don't think you should compare him to Albon. But at least with Bottas, he is with his teammate. So again, it was a 1-2 in Belgium. We know Hamilton's going to win. And if that's the case, it's good to know, to be honest, it's great, and it's the best result Bottas can get to finish P2. Because if you're not P1, you have to be P2. That's the best result. That's P2 is the P1 of not P1s. That's the best result he can get. So if Bottas does that, it's good, because it shows that he is closer to his teammate, but of course not as good as his teammate. But but the Albon problem is that what I've just said there. He's not next to Verstappen. Look at Belgian Grand Prix, a race that was pretty boring because of the lack of changing. And if you have the pace, one pace all weekend will be shown. Mercedes were dominant in practice, and they were dominant in the race. And Red Bull were dominant. They were the second dominant team. So Verstappen has a lonely race behind the Mercedes, but in front of everyone else. But the problem is, Albon should have finished in 4th place, theoretically, because he is technically the 4th fastest driver on the grid, second position to Verstappen, and Red Bull is second team, so he should be, as I say, the fourth driver in the grid. 4th place overall for Albon should be there, but he's not. And again, this is just one of those problems that Albon's doing. He can't match up to Verstappen, so people think he's a mediocre driver, but he's not. He is getting the good results. And as I say, we're going to be talking about Gasly later on. I'm not spoiling it, it is a title. But we're going to be talking about Gasly later on, and should he be at Red Bull. But my views on Albon is, putting the trading place aside, you've made the bed. You've decided Albon's going to be staying until the end of, he had the trading place in 2019, stayed in 2020, given the rest of the season, and let his results speak. He's doing well. He's supporting the team. And as Jordan said there, second place in the Constructors is almost locked in now. There's no way anyone else is going to really, challenge a threat, especially not who we thought was going to be in third for Scuderia Ferrari. No chance. And I think that Albon's doing okay for Red Bull. Obviously not 4th place, not where we expect him to be, but I think he isn't doing too badly. Anyways, moving on to the next statement. As I said, the Albon one is really, really hard to digest. But we are going to be talking about the other guy that was later on. So moving on to the second statement, and this comes in from Andy Graham 22, and he says a Formula 2 statement. I've had a few of them, love them. He says, Mick Schumacher, Callum Ilott and Robert Schwartzman all deserve Formula 1 opportunities next year. 2 Alfa Romeo and 1 Haas, 2 Alfa Romeo seats and 1 Haas seat. And to that, I'm on the fence. It's not 100% either way, but to that, I am going to say agree.
I'm going to say agree to that one as well.
Now, we saw Robert Schwartzman have a pretty dominant weekend and the leader of the World Championship. Now, there was, of course, Mixon at the front in that race on the Sunday, but we see the driver doing a good result in that car. Callum Ilott as well, again, showing very good promise also. And again, Mick Schumacher, he might not be on top, he might not be better than Callum or Robert, but the name Schumacher is strong in Formula 2. 3 great drivers, and it's, of course, Formula 2 is a progression. The stars of F1, I think, isn't that what they say, of the young generation? The kind of tagline through Formula 2 definitely deserve to be there. So, there's 2 parts to this question, of course. It's, do they deserve to be in Formula 1? Yes, they do. It would be nice to see Formula 1 kind of revamp things because, going into 2020, we didn't have much change. We had Esteban Ocon coming through. It wasn't a rookie. He had a season where he's coming back. It's his first season after a year out. Of course, he drove for Racing Point Force India, I should say, in 2018. And then the only rookie on the grid was Nicholas Latifi. So you thought there's not really much change in this way. To see 3 brand new drivers, but not 3 brand new drivers from, money or outside opportunity or whatever. We're seeing 3 drivers from Formula 2, with one of them at least being Formula 2 world champion, will be great for the sport. The second part is the Alfa Romeo and Haas. See 2 Alfa Romeos, that's Gio and Kimi going. Kimi, most likely, he will be retiring out of Formula 1 at the end of the season. 21 years, I think it is, of Formula 1. He'll be going of old age, definitely getting his pension from F1. I hope Chase Carey's got it on, tucked away. I mean, that was a long time. And Gio as well. I mean, again, the man who's crashed twice in consecutive Belgian Grand Prix. And thank you, Gio, as well, for, creating some, entertainment. I think before that, it was only 11 laps in, but I think a lot of people were ready to go, oh my God, all right, are we ready for bed now? 11 laps in and now it happens. So at least thank you, Gio, for, making some entertainment. So obviously Gio and Raikkonen would have to leave. And of course, Haas, one of the 2 drivers of Grosjean and Magnussen. For that reason, it would be hard to say, because the first statement, yes, get them in Formula 1, definitely. Callum's got a great future ahead of him, of course, through the Renault programme. Schwartzman as well, and Mick Schumacher, I think they're both Ferrari drivers as well. Again, as I say, most likely Ilott or Schwartzman, world champion of Formula 2. Definitely big futures ahead of them. Most likely the Schumacher and Schwartzman getting to Ferrari in the future, and possibly even a world champion in the future also. But the second part of this question is the one where you might think possibly not. Because can we see Gio getting replaced? The man who is tipped to go to Ferrari, well, loosely tipped, one then of course was thought about before Carlos Sainz was signed into Sebastian Vettel's seat. And also, could we see one of the Haas drivers going? Of course, Roman and Kevin, who, yes, they have been in Formula 1 for quite a long time now. I think Roman's been in over a decade now, jumping around, not the best results, but doing good for the team. Would that kind of headache, and would we actually see that happen to let's say 2 promising drivers for a future, Gio and Raikkonen, Gio and one of the Haas drivers, and then Raikkonen of old age, he'll walk away. Could we see 2 of them walking away for 3 possible future drivers in the, when they definitely want a good chance? I don't really see that happening. So for that, I'm going to say disagree. But for the first statement and his, overall statement of should we let those 3 drivers in, definitely yes. And I'm all for, getting Formula 2 drivers in. And I'll tell you what as well, just, again, I think last year we didn't really understand, or I didn't really understand F2 that much. But to see Latifi, who wasn't world champion, of course, normally we see the world champion of F2 going off to F1. De Vries went to Formula E. But to see only one F2 driver of Latifi go to F1, I'm sitting down and I'm thinking, that's pretty ridiculous. What about the other drivers? I mean, what about Delatraz and Giotto? And, I mean, I'm not saying that they would have been instant hits, but again, and even Schumacher, with all the hype around his name. But to have only one drive from F2, it's not right, is it? So maybe at the end of this year we do see more drivers. It doesn't even have to be those 3. It can be people like Guan Yu Zhou. We see them go up. Dan Ticktum as well, and of course the man who Yuki Tsunoda, the man who we made last week's agree or disagree about. Maybe we could see them getting promoted. So for more Formula 2 drivers, yes, and I completely agree with that statement, Jordan. Mm-hmm. Of course, Jordan, you're a big Formula 2 fan as well. You're a big fan of Robert Schwartzman and Callum Ilott, of course, home driver as well. What's your thought about them getting into Formula 1? And mainly, what about the second part? As I say, Gio and Raikkonen and either Grosjean or Magnussen walking out for those F2 drivers.
I mean, all three of them drivers are having really good seasons. You know, Schwartzman retook the lead after the Belgian Grand Prix. I mean, Callum Ilott, poor lad, he didn't really have that much luck coming into this weekend, did he not? And that's the exciting thing about Formula 2. One week you're thinking, oh, this guy's going to dominate. And then the next race, it all goes wrong for him. And then it just swings back into his rival's favour. And boom, we've got a title fight on our hands here, guys. I would say Schwartzman, a lot of people were tipping him to be competitive in Formula 2 because of how good he was in Formula 3 and how good of a reputation he actually had. F3 champion, by the way. We have seen drivers go from F3 to F2 to F1 straight away off the bounce, winning the championships in F3 and F2. George Russell did it. Charles Leclerc did it. Could Schwartzman do it? Hey, I don't see why not. He's a really good driver. Mick Schumacher, again, a lot of hype around him, of course, that there is going to be. If you're a Schumacher fan, Michael Schumacher fan, you're going to be excited about this young talent. It's his son at the end of the day, so you're kind of all nostalgia feel with Schumacher in the sport. You're going to follow him, and if you do support him, then go for it. Schumacher, he's probably been I would say the unsung heroes of Formula 2. He's going completely under the radar. I mean, we're looking at people like Dan Ticktum, Dragorovich, Ilott as well. Ilott is doing superb this season. I'll get on him in a little bit. And Schumacher's got, I think he's been on the podium, like, is it every time apart from once or twice this season? He's doing pretty well. Very consistent. He hasn't got a race win under his belt, but nevertheless, he's, like I said, he's consistent. He's doing the right moves, unless you at Silverstone that time when he collided with Schwartzman, but never mind. Formula 2, you're there to learn. And certainly Schumacher, not only does he bring a bit of talent, I would say, he's a good driver, he also brings that media attention, which could help midfield teams. And I've said this before, maybe that's the main reason why they get Schumacher in. I mean, they could say, oh, he's a good driver and blah, 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 but realistically, there's going to be a lot of cameras on wherever he's going to be at, which is good for sponsorships. So, and Callum Ilott has been a very... probably one of the surprises of the season. I mean, I don't think he was tipped to be in with the hunt of the championship, and pole position wise, he's doing spectacular. He's his qualifying record this season doing pretty well, and race wise, he's doing the job. He's very consistent. Won a couple of races, had some really good scraps with his fellow rivals, and I'm pretty happy with Callum Ilott, and certainly he's got the talent. He's shown it this season to be in Formula 1 next season. In terms of the seat selected, I would say more or less agree to that. Kimi Räikkönen, come on, Kimi, it is time to go. Thank you and good night, please. This has to be your last season. Giovinazzi, I mean, he's a meh kind of driver. He's not terrible, but he's not exactly he's not exactly banging on that world champion drum just yet, or even ever at all. Slot in two young guys in there. It could show up the potential of Alfa Romeo, how long they want to be in the sport, and that connection with Ferrari as well, with the Sauber partnership as well. And yeah, it would just be good to see those two at a team and see where they go at. Schumacher and Schwartzman, I've always said Schumacher and Schwartzman would be at Alfa Romeo. In terms of the other seat in Haas, I would say that's more for Callum Ilott, because Haas, they don't exactly set the world alight. They've fallen off the pace, mainly down to one particular thing. I mean, engine, yeah, but last season Ferrari had a good engine, and look about Haas were last season, it wasn't that good. And I would say definitely Grosjean to replace him. K-Mag, he's okay. He's better than Grosjean. I would say K-Mag, does he deserve a better car? Probably, but he's got to do the best he can with what he got. I mean, he might get sick and not stick around, and he could end up leaving, and people forget it. But if there's anyone that would go, if I had to choose, I would say Grosjean. He's had his time now. He's not going to be doing anything spectacular in Formula 1. Give that seat to someone else. Let the younger generation have a go. Thank you, bit like Kimi Räikkönen. Thank you, Grosjean, and good night. So I would say, Schwartzman and Schumacher in that Alfa Romeo seat, and Callum Ilott in that Haas seat. But hey, that could all be wrong. But I have to wait and see on that one. And right, okay. So the next opinion comes in from Johnny Simpson from YouTube, by the way. And he says, F1 teams shouldn't be allowed to have B teams, i.e. AlphaTauri and Red Bull, Sauber and Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, that type of thing. Whilst I appreciate that it's a good funnel for youth talent, it makes the grid a lot less competitive, knowing that the B teams will rarely, if ever, be able to outperform the works team. Now, he's got a good point there, because, I mean, they are pretty good in terms of the younger generation and stuff like that. But to that, I'm gonna say agree.
I'm going to say disagree.
Now, mainly, I'm trying to think about this one, because even though, like, he did state there that, you know, whilst he appreciates the younger generation be able to get a chance in Formula One, so if you're part of a driver academy, if you're part of the Red Bull driver academy, more than likely you're going to get promoted to AlphaTauri. If you're part of the Ferrari driver academy, which is Schumacher, Schwartzman, a lot of the guys that we mentioned before, you're probably going to get a chance in with Alfa Romeo or even Haas. They've got connections with Haas. And if you're part of the Renault program, you know, Renault, of course, maybe even McLaren as well. Mercedes, you know, Williams, they've got a chance. McLaren as well, they get the Mercedes power next season. Then, of course, the big boys, Mercedes. And even Racing Point or Aston Martin, if you want to go that far, because they've got Mercedes connections as well. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of, like, not every single team on the grid is a B team, of course. I mean, the obvious ones, like you said, they're AlphaTauri, Red Bull, and Alfa Romeo, Ferrari. Now, I would say, like, yeah, because I want to have every single team different. But the problem with that, you could say, is that, well, without the help of the bigger teams financially, because a lot of the, like, Alfa Romeo, they use Ferrari's gearboxes, they use Ferrari's engines, and same with Haas. They did, like, the cheap way of kind of getting it into Formula One by getting as many spare parts from Ferrari as they possibly can. It's good, but realistically, the cars are more or less a year out of date. So they're not up to date with the modern technology. I mean, they can add their own little upgrades, but it's not going to be on the car until Ferrari had developed it, used it, and then they put it in the recycling box, let's say. And then the likes of Haas and Alfa Romeo and, you know, AlphaTauri for Red Bull's sake, they'll pick up the parts and use them as well. And maybe that's why there's such a big gap between the top two. You could, let's say for argument's sake, top three. I know Ferrari aren't in the mix, but in recent years it's been a top three. So we'll put them in their top three. Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes. Then you look at, like, the other guys, you know, your Haas, Alfa Romeos and stuff like that. They're miles away from the pace, and you would want them to be a lot more closer. But, you know, they're a works team. Sorry, they're a customer team. So they're not going to get the best of anything. So it's like, well, they're kind of relying on Ferrari's data for their car, and it's just not going to work. So I would like to see every single team have their own take on that year's regulations, how they're going to build the car, and I just want to. I think that would be very interesting to see. But in terms of on the financial side of things, you know, will it work with this in this day and age? Probably not. But with this new cost cap coming in and the new financial rules, it could be something that maybe teams could look upon in the future. But I mean, B teams, it's been there for a while, and chances are it's going to stay here for a lot longer. But even though it's not exactly the worst thing going, it's certainly something that I want to see taken away. Like, you know, at this moment in time, you know, everyone's swimming on armbands. Let's take them all off. Let's say if you swim or sink. Great analogy, I know. Bravo. Yeah, that's pretty much on it. I think the only positive thing, like Johnny said there, is having the young talent having the opportunity to be able to go into those cars. But as we've seen in recent years with Red Bull, it's not always the case. You're constantly being moved up and down, and with a click of a finger, you can go from one team to another. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's not really good for like consistency in your racing career. If you know what I mean, in terms of 1 week you're going to be here, next week you're going to be there. But if you don't improve, you're going to go back to the younger team and the slower team or whatever. It's like it's not really good mentally wise. So that's my opinion anyway. Lyle, you also said you went opposite to what I said. You said disagree. What is your reason to that, and why?
Well, I mean, firstly, obviously, as you said there, you know, the main reason is people go through that program. It won't really change. It's just kind of like, at the end of the day, it's just because of the progression through the different teams and, of course, the components that they use. But really, ever since, using Toro Rosso as an example, of course, now AlphaTauri, you know, it was around 2016, 2017, I would say. I think they were trying to start, you know, getting away from Red Bull. You know, the head of, you know, Franz Tost started to say that, you know, as well as, of course, Dietrich Mateschitz owned both teams, we're going to try and split up from Alpha. We're going to try and split Red Bull and Toro Rosso just a little bit more. Of course, we're still going to be the sister team. We're still going to, you know, obviously drive their engines, Renault engines, and then Honda actually 1 year before Red Bull, and that was a big thing for them. You know, they could test the waters with the Honda engine in 2018. But we're going to try and make Toro Rosso, even though we're linking them, a little bit more of a different team. And to be honest, that's the same as all the other teams up and down the grid. Sauber and then Alfa Romeo. They are, yes, a Ferrari team, but I would say they are a different team. Haas, teams like the customer teams in that way, possibly different, but especially AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo, I would say they're definitely different teams. Yes, they do have drivers that work alongside each other. Kimi went from Ferrari to Alfa Romeo, and of course the main one is AlphaTauri, Toro Rosso even, or whatever. Both of them, either of them, whatever. Drivers going through Toro Rosso to Red Bull, and of course most recently drivers coming from Red Bull back to AlphaTauri. And yes, they do work together in terms of customer teams and things like that, but I would say that they're very different teams. The different teams in how they're organised, the different teams how they're ran, in terms of the budget, even where the factories are. Because again, you think Red Bull Racing, they're based in Milton Keynes, they're ran by Christian Horner. Yes, both teams are ran by Jake Mateschitz, who owns Red Bull in Spielberg, but they're ran by different people in the sub-organisations. And then you've got Toro Rosso base in Italy, then AlphaTauri's base in Italy, ran by Franz Tots. Different people, different budget, different wind tunnels, different equipment. Yes, they both use the Honda engine, but they're different teams. They have two different drivers. Again, I know that both the AlphaTauri drivers have driven in the Red Bull, and both Red Bull drivers have driven the AlphaTauri or Toro Rosso, but it's still a different team. And when they're on the grid, like the Belgian Grand Prix, they're competing for each other. Of course, Gasly and Kvyat got really good performances, I would say, for them, but for them and for that team. The midfield team of AlphaTauri, it's using the Honda engine, and yes, it of course is named after the clothesline of Red Bull, but they are a different team also as well. Alfa Romeo as well, they're different to Ferrari. Two different drivers. I know that one of them's driven that Ferrari car before, and one of them wants to get the Ferrari and is even Italian, but they're different teams. And in this case, only one of them drivers, Charles Leclerc, has driven for that team. Sebastian Vettel obviously came from Red Bull. Different teams and different reasons why they're racing. And in this way as well, Scuderia Ferrari, the A team of the Ferraris, almost the pace of the Alfa Romeo. And in terms of Haas, almost, Haas, to be honest, I think if Haas dug in a little bit more and got their strategy right, they could have finished higher than the Ferraris. But they are different teams, and to be honest, that's how I look at them as well. Yes, they are in the same categories, but you could say that about anything. Formula 2, they use the same chassis. They use a lot of the same regulations up and down the grid. All of the cars are the same chassis, and a lot of those components are very simple, and some of them non-existent. Some of them obviously very simple to Formula 1. It's very, to be honest, more simple like your road car is. That gap is lessened. So you could say a lot of those teams are very similar to each other, but they don't. Mm-hmm. They're all in different teams, and then it's down to their own ability as drivers or as teams. So I see those teams as different. And of course, yes, AlphaTauri is linked with Red Bull, but in no way, shape or form do I think that Red Bull, this is the Red Bull B team or Red Bull Academy team or whatever. I don't think that. At the moment, so for example, using Pierre as an example, I think that he's driving for AlphaTauri, who is a different team. Of course he got demoted from Red Bull, which makes you think, yes, it is very, it's linked, but he's driving a very different team. He's not driving an Austrian car, or a British car. He's driving an Italian car, and it's a different team. So that's how I look at it. But there we go. Again, that is a hard one to get around. Definitely in the olden days, when we look at 2012, 2013, 2014, relationship between Red Bull and Toro Rosso, it was like that. More so because of Sebastian Vettel's domination and the fact that Toro Rosso knew that if they got even pallier with Red Bull, they would get a lot more funds. But as I say, it has spread out a little bit more now, and I think that is definitely right. And also one last thing as well, I don't think that, even though people think Williams and Mercedes are tightly knit because they both use Mercedes engines, they're both British, and they both have George Russell, Toto Wolff manages George Russell, a Williams driver, who will go to Mercedes at one point. I don't think they're very close. And I also don't think that Racing Point are close with either of those teams. Again, a British team who use Mercedes engines, possibly have one or two drivers who could go to Mercedes in the future. I don't think they're linked. I think in the Mercedes bubble, there are three different teams, and if anything, I don't think Mercedes and Williams are friends. And Mercedes, definitely Williams would not want to think of themselves as a B team to Mercedes. But anyway, moving on to the final statement, and again, the title of today's episode. This comes in over on Instagram, is from the Apex Motorsport. And they say, Gasly would have been better for Red Bull this season if he was allowed to stay for the whole of last season. We are on the $1 million question or statement or issue about F1 right now, Jordan. And I'm wearing Gasly. I think you know what I'm going to say. Definitely 100% agree.
I'm going to say... Oh, I don't know. I want to say agree as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wore Gasly before even knowing the topic today. Obviously, Gasly, one of my favourite drivers, definitely. And the driver of the day at the Belgian Grand Prix definitely deserved that win. Of course, an incredible weekend as well, obviously driving in, in respect of his late friend. But a great performance in that AlphaTauri car for sure. He got up to fourth place, I think it was, at one point in that race. Obviously, Ricciardo and Gasly swapping that place out. It finished Ricciardo in this instance. Great performance by him, and most of that race he was battling Alex Albon, who he might not be rivals with Alex in a direct fashion. I don't think that those two really have a rivalry because they're different. The Thai, British, and French. They don't really, I wouldn't say there's a rivalry there, but of course they're definitely embroiled in this battle, whether they like it or not, but because they were both the figures of Trading Places 2.0. Of course, Gasly went back to AlphaTauri, Toro Rosso, and Alex, who was promoted after 11 races, not just in Toro Rosso, but in Formula 1 and driving a Formula 1 car, was promoted to Red Bull. They were battling each other, and again, not just Belgium. We saw that in a little bit in Spain, but mainly in the two British Grand Prix. Massive battle in there, and I think the British Grand Prix obviously went the way of Gasly, and it is definitely a good performance, and in this way, I think it's good to see, because we see that, yes, Albon might not be up to the challenge, but we've already talked about Albon in the first statement, but going on to Gasly, we see that Gasly is fired up, he's ready, and a lot of people have said in the past, and we had this on from a guest we had on a few episodes ago on the F1 Debate Show. He said Gasly was affected by this, the move, and you could say that possibly about Kvyat, that he was affected. His performances weren't very good, and of course that ended up why he was dropped from Toro Rosso at the end of 2017. But Gasly, I completely disagree with that, and I think that he has come back even stronger. He might be one of those people who, kind of lives on the, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I have been demoted from Red Bull. I'm not going to sulk about it. I'm going to, dig in, get the better results. He might be doing it to get back to Red Bull. We don't know, but he is definitely performing amazing in that car. I'm not saying, we can't say we're 100% that he would perform exactly the same as he is now in that Red Bull car. It might be the mentality of driving that AlphaTauri. It's a team of less pressure. I definitely think that. Gasly wasn't the most popular driver when he was at Red Bull, but he is a very popular driver, if not one of the most, if not the most popular driver at AlphaTauri. People love him now. And again, it makes me feel a bit weird because I was a fan of him when he was at Red Bull, but now when he went to Toro Rosso and he started performing well, I started seeing a lot more people saying they were fans of Pierre Gasly because he was doing this. He was performing in a bad car, which in Formula 1 terms means you are doing well, because we all know it's a sport dominated by the car. If you're doing well in a car that doesn't perform well, you are loved. And Gasly was getting better performances in that Toro Rosso car than he was in the Red Bull car in 2019. People loved that. And of course, Albon's doing better than him in the championship and in races because it's a Red Bull racing car. But Gasly is still there. He's really performing well. He's digging down. He's consistent. He's battling Albon as well. He's showing the pace. He's showing the promise. To be honest, the most simple thing to say about Pierre Gasly is he's performing a little bit too late. If he performed now, back a year ago, or more than a year ago now, and he would have shown that he is definitely worthy of that seat. But I definitely think that he should have been given more time for sure. Firstly, the Trading Places, first time it worked well. I didn't think it should have worked the second time, but to be honest, Jordan, I feel like after the first time worked so well, I mean, obviously it worked incredibly well, moving in Verstappen, but again, remember, nobody knew about that. I think Red Bull were itching to do it again. I think a lot of people would agree with that. I think Red Bull were itching to do the train places again. And unfortunately, it was Gasly. But we never saw what he could have done. And I think that if he was performing now, as he did, as he does in that Alpha Tauri, especially as he did in Belgium, he would definitely have stayed there. It would have given him more confidence. It would have been another driver in the team. And yeah, I think it would have gone well. It's a hard one to say though, of course, because Albon's here at the moment. But I think that, Gasly, I think that he should have definitely been given the season. Definitely. I've said that before. It won't change. And better results, he said, being better at Red Bull, referring to Albon. I think we are looking at, yes, Gasly being better than Albon. But Jordan, it's a hard one again. Obviously, you agree as well. We've talked about Gasly till we're blue in the face, or till we're Red Bull in the face. Yes, what do you think about that? We've talked about Albon, but now it's Gasly. And yeah, Gasly should have stayed through the end of the 2019 season. And would he have done better than, of course, the man who replaced him at the Austrian team?
Well, I've always said since it happened that they shouldn't have demoted Gasly. I see the reasons why, but ultimately they were in a position where they could afford to change him, and they were in a position that they didn't have to change him. You know what I mean? Like, they had third place in the bag. They were too far away from Ferrari, and McLaren were never going to catch them. I've said that before. It's true. So they were either going, right, okay, let's bring in someone else to see how well he can do, and if he doesn't improve, then there's potential that we could then re-employ Pierre Gasly. But then the problem with that is that he's had half a season with one team, half a season with another team, then potentially starting a new season with that same team he started in last season. But there's no guarantee he's going to finish the season with that said team because it happened the season before. I mean, all right, Gasly's performances at Red Bull was poor. It really was. It was nowhere near Verstappen. He was well off the pace, getting out in Q1 and Q2 at most qualifying sessions. He had a few decent drives, especially Silverstone was a standout one. But other than that, it wasn't really anything spectacular. Now, the reasons why I'm saying they should have given him another season was because they had to employ somebody quickly, because Ricciardo left on such a suddenly, he was so ready to sign that deal. He even pre-recorded a message saying, "Thank you very much, I'm staying at Red Bull, I can't wait for another season," or however many years it was going to be, this new contract. Sudden U-turn, he goes to Renault, phones up Horner, "Oh, I'm going to Renault." No, what? You kidding us? Really? Wow. So they're going, well, there's no one else to get. I mean, you could have got Kvyat, but you've already had Kvyat. You got demoted, which again was wrong, and bringing in Pierre Gasly was the logical choice. And Gasly had a pretty good start of his career at Toro Rosso. He had he lost out in the Super Formula Championship in 2017 because of a typhoon. He had a couple of races with Toro Rosso, which was pretty good, and in 2018 he had a pretty solid debut, I would say. He was up against Brendan Hartley, which isn't exactly, it's not exactly difficult, you know what I mean? No offence to Hartley, but Formula One, he's a good driver, but in F1 he wasn't really on the pace. But in other sports and WBC and stuff, then certainly he was a quick driver. A lot of people were again hyping him up and going, "Oh wow, Gasly, yes, he had a good season. Let's get him in the Red Bull. He's going to do well," and he didn't. And then now this season in 2020, hey, he's doing pretty good. He's being very impressive. But we've seen this before with Gasly, and I would say, I know he's popular, and you're probably watching this going, "You're a Gasly fan," but I'm going to go on the lines with that. He's a little bit overhyped. All right. Now, yes, I know I've seen that move in Eau Rouge against Perez. Brilliant move. I'm not doubting his skills, but what's he done that's made me go, "Wow, he deserves a Red Bull seat"? You put him that. I know what about. In hindsight, if he stayed Red Bull, would he have been better? If you put him in that Red Bull seat now, no, he'll be. Maybe I don't think he'll do better than Albon. He might do the same or even worse. Because, like I said, that car is just not for them. But anyways, so back onto the original opinion. If he had stayed at Red Bull, would he have been better than, let's say, Albon? Probably. I think he would have been better in himself, 100%, because even though he struggled at the start, no one would have ever known what would have happened in the second half of the season. Would he have improved? I would say yes, but still not where Red Bull wanted him to be. But it was another step up from where he was at the start of the season. So therefore you can go, right, okay, season over, let's look back at my results and my performances, and let's see what I did wrong and what can I improve for next season. Now, I'm not saying he will be beating Verstappen on par with Verstappen, but certainly he could have been a lot quicker in himself. Okay, Red Bull's given me a chance. Give him a multi-year contract. That's under his belt. So he's not having a year contract to go, oh, is this my last season? If I don't perform, I'm out the door. Adding unnecessary pressure onto the driver. So therefore, then he would have had that, that cushion. Okay, I'm here for a couple of years. Let's go for it. And if he does well, brilliant. If Verstappen does decide to get up and walk out one day, then at least Red Bull know that they have got a good driver on their hands to take control of the team should Verstappen decide to walk away. But they just didn't give him a chance. And because of that, like I said, going through the feedback and his own performances, I think he would have been certainly a lot more consistent, a lot more better, and potentially a lot more quicker than what he was last season, and maybe a bit better than what Albon was. And I'm saying, give Albon the season. They should have given Gasly the season. I know everyone's happy that Gasly's doing well because I wanted him too. It's tragic what happened, losing his close friend Antoine Hubert. It was it's such a tragic story. It's heartbreaking, and the fact that he was demoted from Red Bull to Toro Rosso, people were like, oh, he's a likable guy. He's very popular and he's creating a really good fan base. And I'm going, brilliant. And he is a good driver. There's a lot of worse drivers on the grid right now. And one day, definitely, I could see him back at Red Bull. But I'm just saying he's a little bit overhyped. Just a little bit. But that's my opinion anyway. So yes, I would say agree to that. Yeah. I could go on about this all day with Gasly and Red Bull, but hey, doesn't matter what happens. What had happened has already happened. So yeah, Lyle, agree or disagree over for another week. Heading into the Italian Grand Prix as well. Did you know, Lyle, that this has been 3 years since we were at the Italian Grand Prix, on a side note? Can you believe that? 3 years!
Oh, no.
Sorry, just to mention it.
Oh, my God, that was... it's fine. I mean, obviously, last year it was 2 years. I just don't think I realised. Yeah, 3 years, guys. 3 years. The Italian Grand Prix 2017. We were there. Oh, my God. Well, thank you, Jordan, for that.
No problem.
But in the spirit of that, I think that I'm going to go and check out, and you should go and check out our 2017 Italian Grand Prix vlogs, which we made back then. In 2017, the channel wasn't that big, but it didn't stop me and Jordan. We had a ball going there. We did vlog, but we made sure to put our enjoyment of the race in front of the channel, which, to be honest, we're happy that we did, but we're happy that the vlogs turned out so well also. So please go and check them out if you haven't already. Most likely you haven't as well. So, but yeah, we enjoyed making them so much. We hope that you guys do too as well. 3 videos, 3 separate days. I think the first one is, getting there, flying to Italy, the practice. Then, of course, second one is qualifying. Then the third one is the race. It's absolutely great to see. So please go and check them out. And I'm looking forward to going and watching them. The Italian Grand Prix build-up this week, it is a good one. It's action-packed. Of course, tomorrow we have F1 24/7 news. The biggest stories coming out of the paddock ahead of the Italian Grand Prix. Some big stories. Definitely, it should be a good one in that episode. Thursday is our Italian Grand Prix preview. As always, we look ahead at the race at Monza. The race in front of what should be the Tifosi, but unfortunately no Tifosi. And after Ferrari's bad performance, what is Monza going to hold for them? F1 debate on Saturday and the race reaction on Sunday done by Jordan. But there's one thing we've missed out there, and that is a Friday video and a special interview. No clues are going to be given. Head over to our Twitter to find out who that is going to be. But yes, we hope that you guys do enjoy that when that video comes out. And we hope that you've enjoyed Agree or Disagree today. Make sure to leave in the comment section below all the opinions, what we've said. Do you agree, disagree, and of course why? We hope that you're enjoying this series as well. And if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Hope that you enjoy the 2020 season so far and our content in this season. Thank you very much for watching this episode, guys. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.